Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wabarakatuh.
We want to present about grammar translation method. Member of the group are the first. My name is Isyara Madani and my partner Reza Pahlevi. The first slide will be present by Reza Pahlevi. Time issue.
Slide 3.
Next slide.
Grammar translation method. What is it? And what are the principles? And how about its strengths and weaknesses? And the last one is what are the procedure and techniques? Okay, next. It's about grammar translation method is including the first is learning foreign language, and the second reading comprehensions. The third is about structure, and the fourth is translate. In the next slide, we'll be explain about background from GTM. In this method, grammar translation is a learning of a foreign language through a reading comprehensions and analyze the structure. Then it can be translated into the native language. The grammar translation method is now new and it has had a different names, but it has been used by language teachers for many years. At one time, it was called the classical language for Latin and Greek. In Chastain 1988, earlier in this century, this method was used for the purpose of helping students and read and appreciate foreign language literature. Finally, it was thought that foreign language learning would help students grow intellectually. Okay, the next slide is about the principle. In this GTM, there are several principles. The first is about the goal of GTM, and the second, role of the authority. Third, emphasize grammar and vocabulary. The fourth, read literature written in the target language. And the last one is translate from one language to another. In this slide, and the next slides will be delivered by Ichara Manadi. Time is yours.
Time is yours, yes. I will present about technique, procedure, strength, and weaknesses. The first is technique. Technique from GTM the first is translation of a literary passage. In the translation of literary passage is about translating target language to the native language, and the student are asked to translate the passage and they have read. And the second is reading comprehension question. In reading comprehension question, the student required to find the information in a passage, like making inference and relating to personal experience. And the next is antonyms or synonyms. In antonym and synonyms, the student asks to find antonym and synonyms for words or set of words. The fourth is cognates. This is a technique of learning like a sound or pronunciation or spelling patterns that correspond between native language and the target language. The fifth is deductive application of rule. In deductive application of rule is make the student understanding grammar rules and of their exception, and then the student applying to the new example. And the next is fill in the blank. In fill in the blank is the student filling in the gaps in the sentence with the new word or items or a particular grammar type. And the 17th is memorization, a way of memorizing vocabulary lists, grammatical rules, and grammatical paradigms. The next is use word in sentences. The student create sentences to illustration. They know the meaning and use the new word from these sentences. The last one is composition. This composition, the student have to write about a topic using the target language. And next slide. And actually, the teaching procedure of GTM has a principle. There are distinguished from other methods, and this is have a 7 procedure. In 7 procedure, the student read the reading passage. Back to the technique, the first is reading literary reading passage. The second, the student translate the passage into the native language. And the next, the teacher use native language to ask the student if they have a question. The fourth, the teacher determines that the answer is correct or not. The 5, the student translate the new vocabulary is their native language. The students are given a grammar rule, and the last one, the students apply the grammar rule to make a sentences as the example, and they have already understood. Next. Okay, this is a strength from GTM. Every method in learning language must have strengths and weaknesses about the technique or procedure, even its principles. Many researchers and linguists define that grammar translation method is one of the methods applied in teaching foreign language. And strength from GTM is a target language is explained faster. And translation is one of the best ways to explain one word or phrase from one language to another. And not only that, but the teacher and the student also easily communicate because the use of foreign language is reduced. And the next is student easily can understand about tenses and grammar. The first linguistic is train, the teacher is need. Next. Next. This is a weaknesses from GTM. This method only focus on reading and writing. Because this method, grammar translation method, is only translating or translating to native language from native language to the target language. And the second, linguistic teacher is needed. The third, not suitable for people who literature, and the last one, student can speak spontaneously. Because from GTM is only teacher-centered, so students are rarely free to express their ability to communicate spontaneously limited. The next, the conclusion will be present by Reza Pahlevi.
Okay, the last one slide is a conclusion. Conclusion from this method, and you have now had an opportunity to examine principles and some of the techniques of the grammar translation method. And the student can try to make a connection between what you have understood and your own teaching situation and believe that the correct sentences or words. I think that's the last one is conclusion. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Yes. Thanks for the attention. Wassalamualaikum
Assalamualaikum
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.